Okay, here we go. We know that Portal has brought them, Pearl and Ben and Metalmouth, to the Land of Rain. Chapter 14, The Land of Rain. The portal disappeared. No more tornado, no more swirling glitter, nothing. Just Ben, Pearl, and Metalmouth standing in the middle of the Land of Rain? It looked more like a wasteland as far as the eye could see. No trees, no shrubs, no greenery whatsoever. The ground had hardened so that it was as dry and cracked as the heels of Grandpa Abe's feet. Blech. A ridge lay on the horizon. It looked to be made of dirt. Nothing grew on it. Had the entire place been colored with the same brown crayon? Even the cloudless sky was an odd tinge of brown. "Are we in the right spot?" Pearl asked. Metalmouth shrugged. "I don't know. I've never been here before." "What?" Ben's mouth fell open. "But you told us that you've been to the imaginary world." "I have. Lots of times. I've been to the Valley of Fog. I've been to the Magnificent Marsh. But I've never been to the Land of Rain." "If this is the Land of Rain," Pearl asked, "then whoever named it has a very weird sense of humor." And indeed, it looked as though it hadn't rained in this place forever. Not a single drop. Pearl set the black satchel at her feet, and then she folded her arms and pouted. "I thought the imaginary world was going to be exciting, filled with all sorts of weird stuff, like purple trees and flowers the same size of houses, and 3 moons in the sky, and maybe more than one sun, and awesome animals everywhere. But there's nothing here but dirt. Where are the unicorns and fairies?" "Unicorns and fairies don't live in the Land of Rain," Metalmouth said with a snicker. "Everybody knows that. They live in the tangled forest." Well, it would have been interesting to learn more about the forest filled with fairies. Ben was more eager to finish their assigned job and return safely back home. "We need to find the rain dragon," he said. "It's dying, remember?" "Where is it?" Pearl asked with a shrug. "I guess we better start looking," Ben said, and he and Metalmouth began to walk in one direction. Pearl, however, being Pearl, headed in the opposite direction. "Hey," Ben called, "where are you going?" "We're going to cover more territory if we split up." The satchel swung from her hand. "I don't think that's a good idea," Ben said. "I think we should stay together. What if something goes wrong?" Pearl stomped across the parched ground until she was standing right in front of Ben. "How come you're always such a worrywart?" He cringed. "I'm not a worrywart. I'm just trying to be logical." "We have a better chance of finding it if we go in opposite directions," Pearl argued. "Yeah, but..." Ben looked to Metalmouth for support. The dragon, who was batting the tennis ball between his paws, was paying absolutely no attention to the debate. "You've got the medical bag, I've got the vial of fairy dust, and if I find the rain dragon, I won't have the bandages or the medicine, and if you get lost, you won't have the fairy dust to return to the portal." "I'm not going to get lost," Pearl said. "I never get lost." And then she glanced at the satchel. "But you are right about the medicine. I guess we should stay together." Ben turned his face towards the brown sky. A brilliant idea popped into his head. "Hey, Metalmouth, maybe you can spot the dragon from the air." Metalmouth thwacked his tail. "Oh, goody, I love flying!" And he began to gallop. The ground cracked beneath his huge paws. His black wings unfurled as he picked up speed. They flapped, but he didn't lift off the ground. He tried again and again. "Aw, gee, this isn't fair," he said. "There's some kind of magic here that's not letting me fly." Ben sighed. "Well, I guess we better start walking." "What about the book?" Pearl asked. "Do you think it might tell us how to find the dragon?" Metalmouth reached behind the scale and pulled out his book, History of Dragons by Emerald Wu, and handed it to Pearl. The kids sat side by side, and Metalmouth stretched out on his belly as if ready to hear a bedtime story. Pearl turned the pages. "Hey," she said, pointing to an illustration. "This looks just like you." And indeed, the drawing was a dragon, black, like Metalmouth, with red glowing eyes and enormous outstretched wings. The caption read, "Danger! Do not approach! The black dragon burns villages and eats humans!" Metalmouth peered over Ben's shoulder. "Well, that's a big old fat lie," he said with a snort. "I'd never do a thing like that." His steamy breath tickled Ben's neck. "I know what you mean," Pearl said. "Lots of people call me a troublemaker. But that's not fair, because I don't always make trouble." "Well, not on purpose." She turned the page. Metalmouth gasped. The next illustration showed some angry villagers swinging rakes and swords at a black dragon. "It's too scary," said Metalmouth as he held a paw over his eye. Pearl searched through the book until she found a drawing with the caption, "The Rain Dragon." "Oh, isn't she pretty?" Metalmouth dropped his paw, and then he rested his chin on top of Ben's head so he could get a closer look at the book. The dragon in the drawing was totally different than the black dragon. Its 4 legs were attached to a very long, green, snake-like body. The tail was feathered, and the horns were shiny and silver. "How come it doesn't have wings?" Metalmouth asked. Ben read from the opposite page. "The rain dragon is a type of Chinese horned dragon. Horned dragons are the most respected of all the Eastern dragons. The rain dragon is a female. Though wingless, she uses magic to fly. More than one cannot exist at the same time. Her sole purpose is to make rain." "She's a girl, and she makes rain?" Pearl said. "That explains why the ground is so dry. She can't make it rain if she's dying." "Listen to this," Ben said, continuing to read. "While Chinese horned dragons vary in size, the rain dragon is vast and stretches for exactly 2 miles from tip of her tail to the top of her snout." 2 miles? Pearl scrambled to her feet. "Well, if she's that big, it should be easy to find her. We just need to get a better view." "I know. Maybe we can climb to the top of that ridge over there." Pearl grabbed the satchel and began to march across the cracked ground, her ponytail bouncing. When Ben and Metalmouth caught up, she was standing at the end of the ridge. "I can't get a good grip," she said with a groan. "These leprechaun shoes are too slippery. Will you give me a boost?" And so Metalmouth cupped his front paws together, and Pearl stepped inside, and he lifted her as high as he could. She scrambled the last few feet. "What do you see?" Ben called up to her. Standing on tiptoe, Pearl reported her findings. "Well, this is definitely where the ridge begins, but it goes on as far as I can see. I don't see anything else." What terrible news. How were they supposed to help the rain dragon if they couldn't even find her? Frustration took hold of Ben's thoughts. What would happen if they failed and the dragon died? Would there never be rain in the imaginary world? Ben leaned against the ridge, and it moved. The ridge moved. Having lived in Los Angeles all his life, Ben knew what earthquakes felt like. This hadn't been an earthquake. He pressed his hand against the ridge. It twitched. "I think we found our dragon," he said with a smile. Pearl slid back down to the ground, landing beside Ben, and upon closer inspection, they discovered that what had looked like a mound of dirt was actually the rain dragon's tail. "But she's supposed to be green," Pearl said. "I wonder if she changes colors because she's sick." This was a reasonable guess, Ben thought. "Now we know at least we're not too late. She's still alive." "Well, we're standing at the wrong end," Pearl said. "We're going to have to walk 2 miles to reach her head." But Ben had a better idea. "Hey, Metalmouth, can we ride on your back?" He was fairly confident that he could hang on. After all, he had taken riding lessons from his parents' country club. "You got a saddle?" Meadowmouth asked. Pearl and Ben both shook their heads. "Then, no can do. My scales will stab right through your clothes if you try to sit on me." And so they walked, and they walked, and they walked. To keep Meadowmouth from complaining about being bored, Pearl threw the tennis ball. To keep Pearl from getting tired, Ben and Pearl took turns carrying the black satchel. Without a cloud in the sky, the sun beat down. The heat didn't seem to bother Meadowmouth, who pounced on the ball like an overgrown puppy, but the sweat droplets gathered along Ben's collarbone. He felt sticky all over. They followed the rain dragon's tail as it thickened, moving toward her hind legs. Cracks in the ground spread in all directions. Some were so wide that Ben and Pearl had to jump over them. A few were so deep that Ben couldn't even see the bottom. They'd stop every once in a while and touch the rain dragon. Ben was checking to make sure she was still alive. Pearl was letting her know that help was on the way. "How much longer do you think we have to walk?" Pearl asked. Ben had no idea. He didn't do much walking back in Los Angeles. He knew that the Olympic athletes could run about a mile in under 4 minutes. So he tried to come up with some sort of formula, but it was too hot to do math. "An hour?" he guessed. Pearl ran a few steps and then leaped over the very widest crack yet. Ben stopped at the edge and looked down. If he had fell inside, how exactly would he get out? Meadowmouth easily made it crossing and was chasing after his ball. "Just get a running start," Pearl said from the other side. She smiled with encouragement. "You can do it." Ben took a deep breath. He didn't want Pearl to think he was scared, so he pushed all of his cautions aside and started to run. But he didn't get quite enough power behind the leap, and his foot slipped. "Ah!" he cried, realizing he wasn't going to make it. The gap loomed dark and endless as a black hole. He clawed at the air, desperate for something to hold onto to stop his fall. Pearl's arm shot out and grabbed the collar of Ben's lab coat. She yanked with all her might. They both tumbled onto the ground. And while Pearl landed on her backside, Ben landed in a faceplant. "You okay?" she said. "That was close." "Way too close." Ben got to his knees. His legs felt wobbly. He spit out some dirt. "Thanks," he said. He looked into Pearl's green eyes. You saved my life." "You think so?" She pushed a few stray hairs from her eyes. "That was no big deal. I mean, you would do the same for me." "No big deal." Ben swallowed hard. Without Pearl, he'd be laying at the bottom of the crevice. "Of course I would do the same for you." There was an awkward moment of silence as they looked at each other. Ben didn't really know what else to say, but he knew that he would never forget what had just happened. As Pearl wiped dirt off her knees, Ben got to his feet. Something made a clinking sound. The vial of fairy dust had tumbled from his pocket, and before he could grab it, the vial rolled toward the crevice and disappeared over the edge. Dun dun dun!